name is Alexandra. Welcome to River Dragon Mystic, and today I'm going to be breaking down the things that nobody tells you about having a very strong Saturn or having Saturn as your dominant planet in your birth chart. And I want to preface this by saying who this video is for, so if you are not sure if this applies to you, I just would like to ask, has your life been defined by delay, an enormous amount of pressure, and being forced to mature early, as well as a sense of, regardless of how capable or how hardworking you are, it doesn't seem like you move forward in the normal pace that other people around you seem to be moving forward. If this sounds like you, I'll get into more of the technical definitions of what makes Saturn dominant in a birth chart. So when you are looking at your own birth chart, there are a few factors that you need to be considered Saturn dominant, and you need a combination of these factors to consider how powerful of a hold Saturn has on you. So a few signs is, do you have many placements in Capricorn or Aquarius? Is Saturn in its own sign, Capricorn or Aquarius, or is Saturn exalted in Libra? Is Saturn conjunct the luminaries, which are the sun or the moon, or is Saturn in Kendra houses, which is the first house, fourth house, seventh house, or 10th house? Or do you have multiple planets in Saturn ruled nakshatras, which are Pushya, Anuradha, and Uttara Bhadrapada? Does Saturn have very few aspects or even no aspects to it? Or is Saturn your Atmakarika, which is the soul indicator planet? You can see that by looking at which planet has the highest degree. Or is your Atmakarika in Capricorn or Aquarius? Or is it in a Saturn-ruled nakshatra? So you don't need to have every single one of these factors, but I would say if you have 3 or more, you probably qualify. If you're still unsure, you can check astro-seek.com. They have a really good calculator on how to find your dominant planets. Now, I'm going to be speaking as somebody who is currently 32 years old, and I definitely have a Saturn dominant chart. There are many things that I have learned so far in this lifetime, and I've got a lot of frustration around the baseline narrative that seems to be out there from astrologers that life will essentially get better after Saturn matures, which is typically around age 35 to 36. But nobody seems to ever really talk about what you're supposed to do until then, while you're still in the mud and while you're still suffering and really going through it. So, what does a life that is ruled by Saturn even look like? The key theme in your life is extreme delayed gratification. I can use my own life as an example, and this is something that I've never discussed publicly before. So, as you know, I'm currently 32. I'm a very ambitious person, and I have recently completed a back-to-back with no breaks Sati Sati, which is Saturn going over your natal moon, Saturn return, and now I have Saturn conjunct my sun in midheaven. So I got no breaks, and I am very familiar with Saturnian energy. Before I tell my story, I just want to make sure you understand that each person's results of their life are going to depend on Saturn's aspects, sign, and house placement. And my story, I'm not sharing this for sympathy, but I just want to give a practical example of how Saturn dominance has manifested in my own life. I'm going to be very blunt, and I think you guys can handle it, and I'm just going to say that my life arc has been very disappointing. I did really well in school, and after I graduated, I fumbled around in pretty menial service jobs. they were really draining for me as an introvert and a highly sensitive person. Those were things like serving, bartending, and I worked as a receptionist for a while. And eventually I fell into cleaning houses, which was suitable for me at the time since I could put in headphones and block out social interaction if I needed to. But I have been trapped cleaning houses now for 9 years. During the 9 years, I attempted to get a degree in psychology and I did really well, but unfortunately, COVID completely disrupted that. And I tried many other avenues to get out of my house cleaning job with the mindset that if I did not follow my passion, my life would ultimately be a waste. I'm now here in 2026. I still clean houses, and Saturn has kept me here. I don't believe that I will be doing this forever, but every now and then the despair feeling hits me very, very hard. I am working in a position that does not use my mental capacity, has no direction for me to grow, and it does not allow me to express my creativity. No shade against anybody who cleans houses, but it's really not been right for me long term. My brain has learned that working hard does not always equal better life circumstances. I've had to create an entirely new mental framework to live by just to kind of get by and continue growing and working to better my situation. So, can you relate to my story? Have you been stuck in a role that feels beneath your capability no matter how hard you try? Has life put extreme boundaries on your growth, whether those are financial constrictions, health challenges, mental health issues, or relationships that limit your full expression? Are you familiar with long-term patterns of existential depression, hopelessness, and wondering when the hell you can finally just exist as your soul intended you to? Were you forced to mature at a young age? Do you watch others go through life milestones in a linear, expected way while you feel that you are constantly behind? You're not alone. Especially if you are a Capricorn moon person like myself. You went through Sati Sati, Saturn going over your natal moon, in one of the most volatile and challenging times on the planet that I've ever witnessed. And this would have been the peak of your Sati Sati, would have been between 2020 and 2023. Brutal. But what I want you to know is that pressure turns coal into diamonds. So what I've noticed is that Saturn seems to dull the dopamine response that you get from achievement. Saturn dominant people are typically very hard on themselves. Saturn can extinguish your sense of hope, your dreams, until there is nothing left but scorched earth. And the only thing that you can keep doing is continue building while you're in the mud and the rain continues to fall and it makes your effort look fruitless. But he requires you to keep going, and the fruitlessness that you feel is a bit of an illusion. Extreme delayed gratification, right? Eventually, life will become easier in a way that will truly surprise you. So, there are some important things to understand about why your life is this way. So, first off, you are a soul who is either maturing or is already old. Young souls do not choose Saturnian life paths and would instead go through life in a more surface level manner. Your soul has chosen to burn off karma during this incarnation and is taking steps towards spiritual evolution and eventually liberation. And I want to be very clear that this doesn't always mean that you were a bad person in a previous life, and there's a lot of nuance when it comes to analyzing your current karma. So this is totally chart dependent, but either way, this incarnation that you are in right now is very important, even if it feels like, hello, cat. Even if it feels like there's no real point to it and it's been really lackluster. So how do you go about existing, especially if you were somebody who's in their 20s or their early 30s? So first of all, it was really important for me to break out of the mindset that I have to just be positive and I can manifest everything like everyone promises. If you're familiar with The Secret, which was huge in the early 2000s, and I find that everybody is still milking the crap out of that to this day. And I find that it's spiritual gaslighting. So I'm not saying that you cannot manifest good things in your life, but it really depends on how strong your Jupiter is, which is a topic for another time. You manifest through brick by brick building. This line of thinking that you have to be positive all the time can make you feel like there is something inherently very wrong with you when in fact, you're actually a late bloomer, and that's okay. A better line of thinking for a Saturn person is to focus on mastery of a skill. If you don't know what that skill is, I recommend seeing if there have been any interests for you that have remained as a constant throughout your life rather than fleeting desires. For me, it's always been astrology. I've been consistently obsessed with it since age 6. It's never really gone away, so this is what I'm choosing to put my energy into to master. To my Capricorn moon mind, the line of thinking that has been successful in keeping me going when I have no financial rewards, no motivation, and no validation is this: every skill that I learn and every bit of knowledge that I gain is an asset. You do not build an empire with sticks. You build it with bricks. It takes time. It involves an insane amount of labor. But guess what happens? Those people that went through a life of ease, where everything seemed to make sense, when something goes wrong, those people lose their minds. Have you ever seen the documentary about people at Fire Festival? I know it's like a really silly example, but do you think any of those people with extreme wealth have survival skills? Probably not. In contrast, you can look at the people who survived the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina while they were trapped in New Orleans. Many of these people lived a very Saturnian existence, which was poverty and resource scarcity, and many of them lived through that. They knew how to wait. They knew how to be patient, to be resourceful, and to carry on going when life literally became life or death. So whatever it is you want to achieve in your life, I believe that the most loving thing that you can do for yourself is to keep a record of all of the progress you have made. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Review it as many times as necessary to get it through your head that you are moving forward. You are ruled by a very cold and logical planet, and presenting to Saturn and presenting to yourself a body of evidence that you never gave up. You can't argue with that. You can't dispute that. And an author who I discovered recently that seems to truly understand the Saturnian path, he's not an astrologer by any means, but he made a lot of sense to me. His name is Cal Newport, and I'm currently reading the book So Good They Can't Ignore You. He speaks about following the path of the craftsman rather than the path of passion. And it helped me really integrate these types of concepts in a practical and grounded way. So, all in all, I will follow up with this with a part 2 when Saturn has matured in my own chart to let you know the results of him finally loosening his grip on me. But I want you to understand something, that you are one of the most unshakable people on this planet right now. You are so much stronger than you think you are. And congratulations on being in some of your final incarnations on the planet Earth. So please keep going. And if you would like to share your story down below about how Saturn has manifested in your life, I think it would be really helpful for other people to read, and I would love to read them myself. If you have any suggestions on things that you would like for me to cover, Saturn returns, Sati Sati, those types of things, please let me know. And if you've watched to the end, I really appreciate you. Thank you for joining me here on River Dragon Mystic, and I really hope that you found this helpful.